Donald Trump has announced that there will be tariffs on steel and aluminum coming from Canada, Mexico, and the European Union. These tariffs are set to go into effect tomorrow. So 12 a.m. on Friday, they will go into effect. 25% on imported steel and 10% on imported aluminum. Now, the reasoning that he is given for this decision is ridiculous. And I'll explain that in just a second, but it has something to do with national security. He's also planning on potentially slapping massive tariffs on foreign-made vehicles, including German cars. Now, Trump imposed the steel and aluminum penalties under the 1962 law that gives the president broad power to increase or reduce tariffs on goods deemed critical to national security. How are vehicles critical to national security? I don't know, but nonetheless, Wilbur Ross did a conference call with reporters and he said the following: "We take the view that without a strong economy, you cannot have strong national security." Fascinating that you say that, Mr. Ross, because we actually do not have a strong economy. It appears that we have a strong economy when the stock is doing well, but wages remain stagnant, and now all of these Americans with their stagnant wages will end up spending a lot more money on products that are being imported from other countries. So that we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, so the reason that he's calling it a national security issue is because it lets him do it by executive action. So, the billionth case in a row of Republican hypocrisy. I can't believe Obama's taking executive action. It's unconstitutional. Oh, Trump's doing it willy-nilly. Great, it's awesome, national security. So he doesn't want to go through the regular process. He just wants to decree it, and that's why he did it this way. I don't particularly care that much about the method that he did it by. I just want to point out their hypocrisy and move on. Now, in terms of the core of the issue, this is where now the Republicans are opposing him. Mm-hmm. So Orrin Hatch, who spent most of the Trump's term so far lodged somewhere in Donald Trump, has come out, poked his head out and was like, I don't like this. Now, why doesn't he like it? Because it affects his Republican donors. And whenever you see Republicans who want to protect their incredibly wealthy corporate donors, what do? They always hide behind small businesses and farmers. So this time they're like, we're just worried about all the farmers. No, you're worried that it's going to affect massive businesses when we start a trade war, and that it's going to affect the stock market, which it is, right? Mm-hmm. So now, where you come out on trade is a different matter, but I know why the Republicans are now all of a sudden found courage to oppose Donald Trump, because their donors told them to.
Well, and look, it is accurate that this could potentially hurt farmers because we are now engaged in a rapidly accelerating trade war because of course these countries are going to want to retaliate, and they've already responded to these tariffs in pretty terrifying ways. So let me give you some numbers before getting to the response that we've heard, not only from the politicians here in the US, but from leaders in these countries. Now, nearly 50% of US steel and aluminum imports in 2017 came from the EU, Canada, and Mexico. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. Again, the cost is always going to be transferred back to consumers. So we all know that. But more importantly, when it comes to farmers, think about the things that we export to these countries. And now there are going to be pretty big tariffs on those exports. So Mexico's economy ministry said it would target several US goods in response, including some steel and pipe products, lamps, berries, grapes, apples, cold cuts, pork chops, and various cheese products, up to an amount comparable to the level of damage linked to US tariffs. Canada has also responded. Canada has pledged to impose retaliatory measures. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the levies totally unacceptable, adding it was inconceivable that they were related to national security, which we can all agree on. I think it's pretty clear that, again, that was just a method of Trump unilaterally doing what he wanted to do. The EU is also planning to hit back with billions of dollars of levies on US exports worth $7.5 billion that could be slapped with levies up to $3 billion, of which could go into effect starting June 20th.
So I know farms are affected. The China is going to strike back against soy, for example, soy products. And China's tariffs are in the $50 billion range. So now they're going to have to strike back about $50 billion. But farmers is like an old school political thing that's appealing to talk about, but it affects many other industries. And it's harder to come out and say, my donors at GM, the poor CEO of GM this is going to affect his bonus and it might cost them millions of dollars. So you go, oh, the farmers. But it does, you're right, it does affect the farms, and important to note that as well. Look, my thought on the substance is devil's in the details. So if you tell me, no, don't ever affect the stock market and hence never do anything about trade, I don't agree, right? If you say to me, do it unilaterally and blunder into it the way that Trump is doing it, no, I don't agree with that either. So there's good reasons to oppose some trade agreements or portions of trade agreements. So, but you hope that someone does that carefully, deliberatively, and for the right reasons. With this administration, good luck with that.
So the response from Republican politicians has been fascinating because you're right. Republican politicians have been very careful about criticizing the president. Usually they'll toe the party line and support pretty much anything he does. But when it comes to this very issue, we are hearing some backlash, some criticism. Senator Ben Sasse says, this is dumb. Europe, Canada, and Mexico are not China, and you don't treat allies the same way you treat opponents. I thought that was actually a really good way of putting it, because remember, we are talking about allies here. Canada, for instance, the European Union, those are allies. I mean, Mexico is supposed to be an ally, and Trump has been attacking them since before he got elected, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I also like the way classy Ben Sasse put it when he said, this is dumb.
Yeah, just simple, terms that Trump can understand. Tariffs on, this is from Orrin Hatch, something that Cenk alluded to earlier. Tariffs on steel and aluminum imports are a tax hike on Americans and will have damaging consequences for consumers, manufacturers, and workers. I will continue to push the administration to change course. Remember, he's retiring, so I don't really think he's going to push for much. Also, Senator Pat Toomey separately called the tariff decision, quote, bad news that would, quote, invite retaliation. And it already has.
The only time they ever oppose Donald Trump is if it hurts their donors. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.